September 1979. Malabo, Equatorial Guinea. Francisco Macias Nguema stood before a firing squad, the man the world called the Hitler of Africa, convicted by a military tribunal his own nephew had assembled, sentenced to death. His own soldiers raised their rifles, and then they couldn't fire. Not defiance, fear. They believed his power would survive the bullet, that a dead Macias could still reach them from wherever he went next. So the nephew flew in men who didn't share that fear, a firing squad from Morocco. Macias was executed by foreigners on the island where he'd killed a third of his people, by the nephew who'd learned everything from him. And that nephew smiled for the cameras and called it liberation. That's the opening chapter of a 47-year story most people never hear the rest of. Subscribe if you want it. The nephew. His name was Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo. In August 2026, he is 84 years old. He has been in power for 47 years. He is the world's longest-serving non-royal head of state. Banking scandals, a coup attempt, international outrage, none of it has touched him. By the end, you'll understand exactly why, and it has almost nothing to do with strength. He also has a son he spent decades grooming to inherit it all. What that son has done with his access says as much about the modern world as about him. The oil. To understand how any of this is possible, you have to understand the country. Equatorial Guinea is small. Population, roughly 1.5 million people. Located on the west coast of Central Africa, a mainland territory and an island called Bioko, where the capital Malabo sits. For most of its history, it was irrelevant to the world. And then, in 1995, ExxonMobil found oil. Not a little oil. Massive offshore reserves, the kind that transform balance sheets and conversations. By the mid-2000s, Equatorial Guinea had one of the highest GDPs per capita in Africa, on paper comparable to some European nations. The people didn't feel it. More than 70% of the population lived below the poverty line, while GDP numbers danced. Infant mortality was among the worst on the continent. Hospitals ran out of medicine. Schools ran out of teachers. Clean water was unreliable across wide stretches of the country. All of it happening in a country producing oil worth billions every year, because the oil money had somewhere else to go. Riggs Bank, Washington, D.C., 2004. A U.S. Senate investigation made a discovery that should have changed everything. Riggs Bank, one of the oldest financial institutions in America, the Bank of Presidents, had been sitting on a secret. It was holding $700 million in accounts linked to the Obiang family. Not government accounts with oversight. Accounts that moved money between the state oil company and the personal use of Teodoro Obiang, his wife, his children, and his associates. The Senate's report was blunt. Riggs had turned a blind eye to evidence it was handling proceeds of corruption from a sitting head of state. Riggs Bank eventually collapsed, partly from the weight of this scandal. The money, deposited in Washington by the man running the country, was never fully recovered. Obiang was not charged, was not sanctioned, was not expelled from any international body. He was, in 2011, elected chairman of the African Union. The son. Now meet the son. Teodorine Obiang, the vice president of Equatorial Guinea, is the most documented kleptocrat in modern history. Not because he was subtle, because he was the opposite. A $30 million mansion in Malabo, a $38 million private jet, a yacht seized by Switzerland in 2016 worth $100 million, $2 million in Michael Jackson memorabilia. A wardrobe that cost more per year than his country's entire education ministry budget. The US Department of Justice came for him in 2014. Operation Kleptocracy, asset forfeiture actions, eventually settled for $30 million. No admission of guilt. He kept most of his assets. France was less forgiving. French courts convicted him in absentia in 2017. Suspended sentence, assets seized. His Paris mansion, worth over $100 million, was taken by French authorities after years of appeals. Back in Equatorial Guinea, he remains vice president, diplomatic passport. His father, the oil. He went home and nothing changed. If that surprises you, that's exactly what this channel is for. Now, the part where outsiders tried to remove him by force. The Wonga coup. In 2004, while Theodorin was spending, someone else was watching. A group of British mercenaries, a private plane, and a plan, funded by London financiers, converged on a plot to seize Equatorial Guinea's government. It was called the Wonga coup. Wonga is British slang for money. The name told you everything about the motivation. Zimbabwean authorities intercepted the plane carrying 67 mercenaries at Harare Airport. The operation collapsed before it started. The leader was Simon Mann, a British Special Forces veteran. The money included a contribution from Mark Thatcher, son of UK Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. He pleaded guilty in South Africa. He paid a fine. Mann went to prison in Zimbabwe and Equatorial Guinea. Obiang eventually pardoned him. The most revealing detail of the Wonga coup is not who planned it, it is why. The people trying to overthrow Obiang were not democracy activists. They were investors. They wanted the oil contracts. They wanted to swap one dictator for another who'd give them better terms. The coup failed, but the logic it revealed has been true from the beginning. No one with the power to remove Obiang has ever genuinely wanted the people of Equatorial Guinea to control their own country. Money couldn't remove him, neither could a private army. But one number is working against him now that no money can fix, and it's already running out. The UNESCO Prize. The UNESCO moment is when the machinery of international respectability showed its wiring. In 2008, UNESCO, the UN's cultural body, carrying the phrase "building peace in the minds of men" as its mission, considered creating a prize in Obiang's name. He had donated money to the organization. Scientists and human rights groups protested. A UNESCO prize named after a man who'd inherited his country from a dictator who banned the word intellectual would have been the most ironic prize in international history. By 2010, UNESCO backed down. But the fact that it got as far as it did revealed the truth about how Obiang has survived for 47 years. Not through force alone, through money, through donations, through oil contracts extended to the right companies, through diplomatic passports that open doors accountability should close. 2022. In 2022, Obiang won re-election with a reported 94.9% of the vote, later revised upward to 99%. No credible international observation, no opposition campaign, no free press. Neither number is a mandate, it is a number. He is 84 years old. Remember the number money couldn't fix? Here it is. Oil production has fallen to roughly a fifth of its 2010 peak. The economy that once masked everything with GDP figures has contracted for years. The people who were poor when the oil came are poor still. The Obiang family is not poor at all. And Theodorin, convicted in France, settled with the Americans, still in Malabo, still vice president, is waiting. Useful. What Equatorial Guinea reveals is a specific truth about how wealth and power interact in the modern world. A country that is poor gets ignored. A country that discovers oil gets noticed, but not by people who want it to be free. ExxonMobil noticed, Riggs Bank noticed, London financiers noticed, the African Union noticed, UNESCO noticed. None of them arrived with democracy. They arrived with contracts, accounts, prizes, and frameworks that let the oil flow and the family govern uninterrupted. Obiang did not survive 47 years because he was strong. He survived because he was useful. And in that usefulness, to Western banks, oil companies, and diplomatic systems, the people of Equatorial Guinea were never the priority. They were the country on the map. Back to September 1979. Back to the Moroccan firing squad. The man who needed foreign soldiers to execute his own uncle because the locals were too afraid of the dead man's power. That man has now governed for 47 years. He did not survive because Equatorial Guinea's people chose him. He survived because the systems around him, the banks, the companies, the international bodies, decided the discomfort of removing him was worth less than the convenience of keeping him. In August 2026, Teodoro Obiang is still president. Teodorin is still vice president. The oil is still leaving. And on the island of Bioko, the gap between what Equatorial Guinea has and what its people have is still the largest, most documented, and most ignored injustice in modern African history. Subscribe if you want it ignored less. One for the comments. If you'd been the bank, the oil company, or the UN, where's the line you wouldn't have crossed? Real answers only, not just all of it.